Carrie here. Welcome back to my channel. In today's video, I want to share my experience and journey with being diagnosed with hypothyroidism. What's worked, what hasn't, and some of the resources I've used. Hypothyroidism is something fairly common in women, and something that I've personally been diagnosed with since I was 19 years old. So I've been on this journey for 26 years with this disease. I want to share my experience, how diagnoses were missed, and symptoms that went unattended to, and just kind of share with all of you in case anyone else out there is struggling with this or having similar symptoms and you don't know what's going on. I just wanted to share what's happened with me in the hopes that it might help one of you, because quite a number of you have hypothyroidism or dealing with thyroid issue. So I hope that this video not only helps you, that it gives you some things that you might not have thought of. Because let me tell you, I have struggled for a very long time with hypothyroidism. My name is Carrie Pratt, and I make videos about being a mom, cooking, gardening, and some of the adventures that we as a family like to go on. Something you may not know is that I have multiple health issues, which I haven't talked about on this platform. But I feel the need to share my story with you. My first diagnosis was at the age of 19, hypothyroidism, and more specifically, Hashimoto's thyroiditis. I'm going to share with you some of my journey, and then at the end, I'm going to tell you all what has worked for me. If you didn't know, first of all, your thyroid is a gland that's situated right about here that affects pretty much every part of your body. Your hormones, the way you feel, the way you put on weight, the way your muscles work, it pretty much affects everything in your body. And hypothyroidism, which is the one that I suffer from, is an underactive thyroid. Sometimes people have hyperthyroidism, which means their thyroid is overactive. But I have hypothyroidism, which is an underactive or slow thyroid. My problem started at the end of grade 12, back in 1995. I was 17 years old and I was in high school full-time, swimming competitively for my high school team, working 2 part-time jobs. And as I look back, the first thing that I noticed was the exhaustion. But I was busy, as most teenagers are, and not getting enough sleep. I had daily swim practices. I was working a part-time job in the evenings. I was studying late into the night, and I was always tired. But I was young, and I brushed that off. A year later, I had gone to the doctor because my periods were very irregular. The doctor had some blood work done on me, and a week later, I got the phone call saying that I needed to come in for another appointment. My doctor told me that I had hypothyroid, and I didn't have a clue what that was. She explained that I had an autoimmune disease called Hashimoto's thyroiditis, which had attacked my thyroid gland, causing it to stop working and stop functioning. And that was the cause of my low energy, being tired, feeling cold all the time, my weight gain, even though I wasn't eating much, irregular periods, dry skin, hair loss, and a slow heart rate and slow reflexes. Yes, those were just some of my easily recognized symptoms. The doctor explained that you measure TSH through blood work. TSH is a thyroid stimulating hormone. The average TSH is 0.2 to 6.1. And my TS numbers had come back as 177.22. That was a huge high number, which means my thyroid wasn't working at all. My parents were surprised that I hadn't complained about some of the other symptoms. But as a teenager, I'll admit, I wasn't listening to my body, and I'd only noticed the exhaustion, being cold, and the irregular periods. I was prescribed daily Synthroid and began the process of trying to figure out the right dosage with blood work every 3 months. And at the time, I did a little research on hypothyroidism, but not as much as I should have. Did you know that women are about 7 times more likely to have Hashimoto's thyroiditis, and that most cases happen between the ages of 40 to 60 years of age? Well, at the time, I was 18 years old. Hashimoto's thyroiditis is also known as chronic lymphatic thyroiditis or autoimmune thyroiditis. It is a condition which the immune system attacks the thyroid gland, causing inflammation and eventually leading to the damage and decreased function of the gland. The exact cause of Hashimoto's thyroiditis is not fully understood, but it's believed to be a combination of genetics and environmental factors. One of the main risk factors of developing Hashimoto's thyroiditis is a family history of autoimmune disease. Studies have also shown that certain genetic variations may make an individual more susceptible to the condition. Symptoms of Hashimoto's can vary, but they typically include fatigue, weight gain, cold intolerance, constipation, dry skin, and hair loss. As the disease progresses, patients may develop muscle weakness, hoarseness, and an enlarged thyroid gland. Some individuals may also experience depression and difficulty concentrating. And in middle-aged women, the symptoms may be mistaken for those of menopause. So the top 16 symptoms of hypothyroid are fatigue, increased sensitivity to cold, constipation, dry skin, unexplained weight gain, puffy face, hoarseness, muscle weakness, elevated blood cholesterol level, muscle aches and pain, stiffness or swelling in your joints, heavier than normal or irregular menstrual periods, thinner hair, slower heart rate, depressed mood, and impaired memory. The treatment of Hashimoto's thyroiditis typically involves the use of a thyroid hormone replacement therapy to compensate for the decreased function of the thyroid gland. Additionally, medications such as corticosteroids may also be used to reduce inflammation and, if possible, slow the progression of the disease. At times, surgery may be recommended. In some cases, particularly if the thyroid gland becomes very enlarged, or if there's a risk for cancer. I personally still have my thyroid gland, even though it hasn't been working for the last 26 years. In addition to medical treatment, management of Hashimoto's includes a lifestyle modification. And these include following a healthy diet and regular physical activity, managing stress, and getting enough sleep. It's also important to avoid exposure to environmental toxins and to be mindful of other autoimmune diseases, as individuals with Hashimoto's thyroiditis are at increased risk of developing other autoimmune conditions. And I am an example of that, but that is for another video. So another fact, the World Health Organization estimates that thyroid dysfunction affects 750 million people worldwide, and the American Thyroid Association warns that up to 60% of those with thyroid disease are unaware of their condition. The unfortunate truth is that many people still feel unwell despite the standard hypothyroidism treatment. Most are told their thyroid is fine, while they struggle with countless numbers of symptoms. Often doctors have no clue the vast array of symptoms that can befall a thyroid patient. And most patients have no idea that their symptoms could possibly be a red flag that their condition is not being well managed or treated. The first step before anything with hypothyroidism is to know the symptoms. And there are over 300 symptoms. Yes, you heard that correctly. Every single cell of the body requires the thyroid hormone for proper functioning. So every single part of the body is vulnerable when you have abnormal thyroid function. Of course, not every single symptom that you experience is caused by your thyroid, and not everyone will present with the exact same symptoms. It's an interesting thing, really, how the thyroid disease can present in different ways in different people. And at my lowest point with hypothyroidism, my doctor at the time insisted that my thyroid level was normal. It wasn't until after I was married and we wanted to get pregnant that I started to understand that my hypothyroidism was going to play a major role in my pregnancies and my entire life. Did you know that even mild or subclinical hypothyroidism leads to possible infertility and an increased risk of miscarriage? Hypothyroidism in early pregnancy, even with limited or no symptoms, may increase the risk of preeclampsia and the risk of infant death around the time of birth. Scary. Women are affected by hypothyroidism in 0.3 to 0.5% of all pregnancies. Subclinical hypothyroidism during pregnancy is associated with gestational diabetes, low birth weight, placental abruption, and the birth of the baby before 37 weeks of pregnancy. For both of my pregnancies, I was watched closely with regular checkups and blood work to monitor my thyroid. And my doctor from my first pregnancy at the time was very concerned about my risk of preeclampsia, which we found out he was right to be concerned about. And that will have to be another video about my experience with being eclamptic during my pregnancy and having a premature baby before 36 weeks. Autoimmune thyroiditis, or Hashimoto's, is associated with other immune-mediated diseases, such as diabetes type 1, celiac disease, rheumatoid arthritis, and lupus. I am currently working with my doctor trying to get my rheumatoid arthritis managed. But we are at the bottom of the medicine list with no visible change in my condition. And I have my 3-month checkup next month. So that's also another video topic. Over the years, I've discovered that standard treatment with synthetic, long-acting form of thyroxine, known as levothyroxine or Synthroid, does not work with my body. Whereas using a desiccated thyroid extract, which is animal-based thyroid gland, most commonly from pigs, is working for me. It's a combination therapy containing forms of T4 and T3. It also contains the calcitonin hormone produced by the thyroid gland involved in the regulation of calcium levels, T1 and T2. These are not present in synthetic hormone medication. Desiccated thyroid medication has made a marked improvement in my life and has helped me manage my hypothyroidism. Also, certain diet restrictions and lifestyle changes have also improved my symptoms at times. But my overall health is a constantly moving target, and I have good days and bad days. One of my favorite blogs on hypothyroidism is hypothyroidismmom.com, and in one of her blogs, she lists 306 symptoms of hypothyroidism. I personally want you to know that your symptoms are not all in your head. No, you're not crazy or lazy or faking, even if other people make you feel that way. Since your thyroid affects all of your body, this means your energy levels, metabolism, your body temperature, susceptibility to infections, polyautoimmunity, your oral cavities, your ears, eyes, hair, extremities, skin, digestive system, pain levels, reproductive system, brain, urinary system, respiratory system, and your cardiovascular system. Yes, that is the entire body. And for myself personally, over the last 26 years, I've experienced symptoms in each of these areas. Although I have to admit at the time, I didn't know that half of them were connected to my hypothyroidism. Of the 306 symptoms listed, I have had 61 of them at one point or another in my lifetime. I'm just going to list a few of them. I've had exhaustion, inability to lose weight, freezing hands and feet, excessive sweating, receding gums, hearing loss, eyelid twitches, hair loss. It's now so bad that I wear a weft so that I look like I have more hair. The loss of my outer third eyebrows, dry, brittle nails, easily bruising, sensitivity to gluten, trigger finger, premature delivery, preeclamptic, premature menopause, poor memory, OCD, and pericarditis, to name just a few. I just want you to know that you know your body. Half the challenge is finding a doctor that listens and takes your symptoms and helps you improve your thyroid functions. I also want you to know that your symptoms are not all in your head. No, you're not crazy or lazy or even faking, even if other people make you feel that way. Even if your current doctor refuses to help, you need to find an open-minded thyroid doctor. It took me years to find a doctor that would help me. And I've been so blessed to be listened to. He does look at my TSH numbers through blood work, but also my T3 and T4 numbers, which most doctors won't test in your blood work. And then we talk about how I'm actually feeling, how my day's going, what different symptoms I have. And we adjust my meds based on that as well. So this is kind of my random story, but it also has so much to do with being me. So I wanted to share this information and my personal story, especially if you're someone whose doctor is not listening, because you know if you're experiencing these things. And if you've never had your thyroid checked, maybe it's something to look into. Obviously, I'm not a doctor. I'm just sharing my personal experience. My sister, just this past weekend, I had to take her to emergency. She's recently begun treating her hypothyroidism, and she had swollen joints in both her fingers and her feet and her neck. And as we went in there and began to talk to the doctor about the symptoms that she had, when he left the room, I turned to her and said, "Did you know that there are over 300 symptoms of hypothyroidism, and what you're experiencing right now might actually be that?" She didn't know, and she said, "But Carrie, I'm taking desiccated hormone, and so why am I having these symptoms?" Well, she was exhausted. She's been dealing with grief and lots of stress going on in her life right now, and the body reacts. And so it's constantly changing. Just because you're taking your thyroid treatment doesn't mean that your life is going to be perfect. These symptoms are constantly changing and evolving at different times in your life. And so you have to be aware of the symptoms and how your body is reacting and listen to your body and what it's telling you. Please let me know in the comments if you've experienced any of the things I've talked about in the video. Or also, please let me know if you've been able to correct your thyroid levels through medication, or if it's diet or lifestyle changes, and I would love to hear them all, because I hope I can learn from you. If I have helped just one person out there to recognize what's going on in their body and to be able to live their life better with their hypothyroidism, that will have been the whole purpose of this video. I hope that by sharing my story that I have helped one individual out there. Thank you for being part of my community. Thank you for watching this video and letting me share my personal story with you. I love building this community, and I hope that by sharing a little bit more of myself and the things that I'm going through, that will indeed help one of you. I hope you have a great week and that everyone feels a little bit better, and I will see you next week.